How's it going, everyone? Welcome back out here to beautiful Lake Ponderay. They're replacing a culvert up the road, but I took the detour all the way around here to the boat ramp, and I am the only one here this morning, so I'm going to take the opportunity to run through my boat setup. Now, I've been fishing off of this boat for, I think, 3 years, 4 years, something like that, and I've been just constantly adding to it, trying to perfect things, make things as optimal as I can, fishing from a 14-foot boat. So let's first start talking about the boat itself. It's a 14-foot Alumacraft John boat, and it's kind of a hybrid flat bottom slash V-hull. Up to about this point, it's a flat bottom, but then carrying up towards the bow, it starts to V out. So as you hit those waves, it does kind of cut through better than a flat bottom, but it does still have the stability of a flat bottom, so pretty nice setup. On the back, I have a 25 horsepower Honda 4-stroke, and that's pretty overkill for a boat this small, but it does work. It gets me out to my fishing spots pretty dang fast, and it does troll down to about 2 knots, give or take, at idle. So it is slow enough to troll, but I can't precision troll, so that's not the best. I am looking to do something about that at some point. And as you can see, the boat is a console version, meaning I have this little console here with my steering wheel, fish finder, which of course I added after I got the boat. We'll talk about that in a second. And then the throttle control for the motor. I really prefer that over having the tiller style. If you mess up at full tilt with that tiller, if you turn too hard, you can flip yourself out of the boat. This is a lot more difficult to mess up. Not to say you can't mess up, but this is a lot safer in my opinion. The fish finder, might as well talk about that since I just mentioned it. It's a Lowrance Hook 2 with the triple shot, can't think of it, transducer, that's the word. Works incredibly well. I haven't had any issues with it yet, knock on wood, but it works great. I primarily use the chart plotter and sonar feature. I haven't really figured out how to use the down scan or side scan. I know they work, but I just haven't been able to figure it out yet, so I use the old tried and true. I also want to mention that the battery is inside a Minn Kota trolling motor power center, I think they call it. And the reason I put it in there instead of just having it standalone is not only is the battery now enclosed in not quite a watertight container, but at least one that it's not going to splash water on it, prevent some corrosion there, but it also has a battery monitor, so I can make sure that the battery's fully charged before I come out here and try launching my boat. I've had some issues with that in the past, so having a little battery monitor on there is pretty nice. And I have I think a 3-point-something gallon gas tank, and then I also have a 2.5-gallon reserve gas tank that I added in. I'm looking to just go with one of the 6-gallon Honda gas tanks and just do away with the smaller ones, but they're not that cheap, so I'd rather just have this set up for now. Eventually I'll upgrade. Now let's talk about all the fishing gear, because there's a lot going on here. First off, I have a whole bunch of different rod holders, as you can see. One here, one on the console, 2 off the back, 2 on the downriggers, and then I also have 6 up front here to hold not just the rods, but also the net as I'm getting out there. I also have this Rapala, I don't remember the specific name, but it's a 6 rod holder that's actually meant to hang on a wall. And I put these here on the seats of the boat. That way, if I wanted to drive with the rods down, in case I'm going somewhere that might have some low-hanging trees, I could do that. And then as far as the downriggers go, they're both Scotty downriggers. One of them is the lower end version of the manual one. One of them is the higher end version of the manual one. Definitely get the higher end version because each crank is twice as much distance as the cheaper one. I didn't realize I was getting the cheaper version until it showed up at my door. Should have read the description a little bit better, should have paid attention to the listing, but it still works nonetheless. And then to mount the downriggers, as well as the 2 rod holders here to the back, all I did was mount them to a piece of wood. That's basically it. This is a 2x8 that I cut to length, and then I ran 2 bolts either side of the boat at the same angle, or I guess opposite of the angle of the hole, and then washers on the boat so that it doesn't pull through, and we're solid. It's definitely not the most ideal setup, but it's working. The biggest thing is not to over tighten those bolts. You don't want to start putting undue pressure on the sides of the hole, but the way I have it tightened down right now, they're not loose, but they're also, like I say, not overly tightened. So there's a little bit of play there on that board, but not enough to where it's gonna come loose. And then again, like I say, it's not overly tightened. I can't stress how important that is if you're gonna try to do something like this. I don't even recommend you try to do something like this, but if you do, sort of a thing. Now, similar concept, I just mounted this planer board mast. What's a planer board mast? Well, let's start out talking about what a planer board is. A planer board is a device that you pull along the side of your boat that you can run your lines down on this line and spread them further apart from the boat. Not only can you spread them further away from the boat, but you can also fish quite a few more lines than you ordinarily would be able to. In theory, you could basically fish an infinite amount of lines, providing you're able to set up the rods staggered in a proper way, so once a line breaks, or a line comes loose, I should say, it's not getting hung up on the other rods. It's kind of a tricky thing. It's half art, half science is what I'll say. But nevertheless, this is going to unlock some pretty incredible fishing for me, especially as fall gets closer. We're pretty much in fall, but not technically. And what I did to mount this guy here, I have two just 90-degree brackets like you would use to build a deck or a pergola or something like that. I'll put pictures in and all that stuff. And I put two of them either side, two of them on either side of the boat, spaced out. And then I put a block of wood here on the outside so that we don't get any rubbing. And then a block of wood here on the inside to then prop that 90-degree up, because there's still a little bit of an angle going along the boat. So putting that block of wood there just gets that bracket at 90 degrees instead of canting out like that. Hopefully it makes sense. Bolt it up, bolt the mast to it, and we're good to go. I'm trying this out today, so I'm hoping that it works. If you're seeing this video, it worked. And I have two planer boards, one for each side, and then they are on 150-pound test Dacron line, and they are 150-foot lengths. I then have a piece of tape around at like the 10-ish foot mark, which is kind of the last point before the line starts to slip on the reels, because this is basically a glorified braided line essentially. And those are just plastic reels, so there's no grip to them. The only thing gripping is the line itself. So I want to make sure that when I'm letting those planer boards out, I'm not letting them out too far to then I have to wrestle them back into the boat. That's just not fun. Now I want to talk about a couple more things that might make your day on the water a little bit more enjoyable. First off, if you're going fishing from a boat, get yourself a net. I love Bill Dance. I've watched him all throughout my childhood and into my adulthood, but I rarely see that guy ever use a net. He either is bending over to grab the fish or he's just yoinking them into the boat. If you catch a big fish, you don't want to yoink them. And then also, you don't necessarily want to be leaning over, you know, potentially falling out of your boat. Get yourself a net. And not only any net, get yourself a net that can collapse down for easy transportation, just like so, but also one that can extend out. So this is where I run it sometimes. I'll usually run it in this kind of middle position that I drilled myself here, but then it can also extend even further. That way, if I have another person fishing with me, I can make sure that I'm keeping this net far away from him, he's staying far away from me, and I can hopefully net that fish. The next thing you're gonna want is a good quality tackle box. And when I say good quality, find yourself one that won't open up if the clips aren't closed. If you've ever lifted up a tackle box and had all your gear spill out onto the ground, you'll know why this is important. Now, I've had this tackle box for, I want to say, going on 15 years at this point, maybe even longer. I got this when I was a little kid, and it has been my primary tackle box ever since. Made by Plano. I assume they still make it because this is an awesome design. I'll show you the inside. I have another tackle box for some different gear for my trolling flies and whatnot, but that's how this one's looking for now, at least. Last but not least, I'm covering these two together because I feel like they go together. A marine radio and a map of whatever water body you're going to be on. And this is especially important if you're on a large, unfamiliar body of water, if you're in a riverway that you aren't familiar with, anything like that. Because this isn't only for navigation, this is for getting yourself out of trouble. If you have engine troubles, if you have boat troubles, if you have whatever troubles, you're hopefully going to have your radio handy and be able to call out where you are. If you don't know where you are, you can't tell people where to come find you. If you don't have a radio, you can't tell people where to come find you, even if you do know where you are. So make sure you have both of these. And even if you do have a GPS chart plotter, I recommend that you keep a map just in case. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've been talking to my camera for far too long. The sun is getting far too high and there are far too many fish to catch. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave it a like, share it with someone you think also might enjoy it, comment down below if you have any comments or questions, and subscribe to see more fishing videos as well as Modern Mountain Man Project videos as we get closer to winter. With that, you guys, thank you for watching, think for yourself, shoot straight, and I will see you next time.